Hey everyone, Once Bitten here. So this is a different kind of video than I've done before. This is actually a product review. This kind of had a serendipitous thing happen. I've been in the market for a means of transporting my models. I'm not really worried about going from my home to the game store, but I've considered going to ETC, and I'm traveling to tournaments more and more. Last year I went to Adepticon, and when I went to Adepticon, I borrowed an army there because I just didn't feel comfortable flying with my army. So now, one, I don't have a good system for it, but I used to. I used to have a system where I had, a case with foam inserts and stuff like that. And I'll talk about it more later. That didn't really work for me. So I'm kind of in the market to buy a carrying case that would allow me to fly with my miniatures when I go to tournaments. And this company reached out to content providers such as me, offering a free sample of their product if we would do a product review. So to me, that seemed like a win-win. One thing I like out of the gate about this product is it's kind of innovative. It's kind of like a different way of approaching the problem of transporting miniatures. So the product is called ShapeShift. The company is Phobos Foundry. The website's right here. There's also in the last slide. I'll include it again. So here's the perspective I'm bringing to this. I want a carrying case for flying. I'm not worried about my system of carrying stuff to and from the game store. The way I do things locally is I have my stuff magnetized on movement trays. I put the movement trays into a a plastic bin. At the bottom of the bin, I just have those little foam sheets that you put sometimes in kitchen drawers that keep stuff from sliding around. So that keeps my movement trays from sliding around, and everything being magnetized keeps it from sliding around. And the only challenge I ever have is that some models are really tall, and I have to make sure I lay them on their side. But for the most part, when I arrive at the game store, I can pick my stuff up and start playing, and I don't have to remove it model by model. So I like that system. I'm not looking to replace that because I just can't stand the tediousness of setting everything on the movement tray for my local games. But if I'm going to travel, I'm definitely willing to invest a little bit of time to get my miniatures off the tray. Um, I'm looking for it for flying, and there's no way I would check this case or whatever it is. I would never check it. I mean, I've seen airlines throw baggage. I think they throw it even when they don't need to throw it. It actually makes me angry when I watch them. So to be a carry-on, it needs to be 22 inches by 14 inches by 9 inches. I believe that's the minimum. Every airline here in the U.S. anyway has slightly different size requirements. I believe that's the minimum. And if I can't carry it on, then it doesn't do me any good. So it definitely needs to be that size or smaller. It needs to protect the fragile parts of miniatures. I'm not really worried about the bulk of any miniature. What I'm usually worried about are the little tiny little pieces that even if you have the foam inserts, you put it in there and they snag on them and snap off, and over time that gets really old. And if it's a small enough piece, when you glue it back, it's hard to do it without there being a little bump where the glue is. So it'd be nice to have something that would protect that. Um, for me, there's a huge problem. It needs to be customizable for a wide variety of builds. I mean, I play a minimum of 4 armies, and when I play those armies, I play a very wide variety of builds. So several years ago, when I had the case with the foam inserts, the problem was that those foam inserts didn't work for for all of my different army builds. And then so I started buying more and more foam inserts, and then it just got ridiculous. And so that just doesn't work for me. And then lastly, of course, it needs to fit my whole army. Um, so, like I said, the traditional system that I see most people using is they have a durable case, they have foam inserts. They're not easily customizable. I've seen some where um, they're like different shapes, and you can pull out more of the foam and then put it back in, and that actually is somewhat workable. Like I said, it doesn't work for me all that well, and like I said, sometimes that still damages the most fragile parts of miniatures. So here's how it works. So when you order it, this is what you get. You also, in addition to what you see here, you get a access where you can download a guide to assembling miniatures, which is kind of an add-on. It's pretty neat. It's information I didn't know, but that's not why I'm buying this. If I bought this, this is what I'm looking to get. There's a case. There are 2 trays that insert, and each of those trays have these kind of slides. Um, You have, some little knickknacks on the side that don't mean a whole lot. You also have if you look at that bag that's in the case, that little clear bag, that contains some hex nuts so you can use instead of the wing nuts. And that'll make sense later why you might want to use that. The wing nuts are much, much easier and faster to loosen and tighten, but they actually sometimes can touch your models, and more importantly, the company's marketing this as something you can store your minis in. So it's not hiding under bed. You can actually open it up like you see here and put your models somewhat on display, and they would look better with the hex nuts. I think that's what they're called, rather than the wing nuts. So in essence, this is how it works. You put your models down and you slide that metal bar up to them, and then you tighten it down, and it just kind of holds them in place by their base. So it looks like that. Now I didn't put a whole lot of forethought into it. I just started putting my miniatures there. One thing I will say is that for these 25 mil bases, there's actually extra room on the left and right, and I should have taken advantage of that and pushed my guys more in the middle. And so if you see the guy on the left, he's all the way on the left, and that causes a problem later. Not a huge deal, but I picked it up, turned it upside down, not a problem. I mean, if you have it in snug and tighten it down, these guys aren't going anywhere. Now, I saw another guy do a product review on this, and he actually loaded the tray and then pushed it off a table, which I'm not doing. There's no freaking way. And he had kind of frail models, and several of them snapped at the ankles. And I'm like, yeah, if your models fall off the table, I think you're just in for a rough time no matter what. So when you got a tray full, it looks like that. And again, turn them upside down. I've got plastic minis, I've got metal minis. They're all nice and snug in there. So then I go to the more challenging ones. I'm like, okay, can it fit my tall models? Can it fit? I don't know if you see in the upper right where that arrow's pointing. That's my customized Beast Lord on a chariot, and it's a rough model. It's basically a Minotaur on the front half of the model and a rock on the back half, and hinging on that Minotaur's wrist is my Beast Lord, which is a metal model leaning forward, and then he's coming out the other side of his hand is a chariot, and that thing is fragile as it's just a lot of weight on this wrist and a lot of fragile parts. And normally when I transport it, I just lay it on its side, and it's been okay, but this is kind of nice because it gets locked in there. I would say though, you would need to make sure that's really snug, because if it's not snug, that thing would, you wouldn't want to trust it; it could fall out. But anyway, in terms of customizability, yeah, you just kind of put your stuff there, and between any two of these sliding bars, everything just needs to be the same length or width, which in this game, that's usually not a problem. One thing I didn't test out was how would it work if I had like round bases, like for my trebuchets, for my Equitane army. And my guess is it would work just the same. It's just I would only have, those two round bases are probably the only thing that would fit between two sliding bars. So once you get them snugged in, then you slide them in the case, and it looks like this. So, yeah. So that's, in my mind, that's kind of the good. It's nice and innovative. It does, it holds your models in place. They're not rubbing up against anything. They shouldn't rub up against anything. The most damage that should happen, as long as they're snug, is I guess you could get some wear and tear on the base itself, and I don't care about that because that is easily painted over. And I'm not sure that would happen, but as long as they're secure in there, short of again dropping it off a table and having something snap at the ankles, I think it does a good job of carrying the models very, very nicely. So here are my critiques of it. Three main categories: the size, the door, and kind of with the door having some fragile parts on it. For something that's supposed to be so durable, it actually has some fragile parts. So the army that I loaded in there is a 4,500 point build that I recently took to a tournament. Well, what you see now are things that didn't fit in. So that means that I would have to get two of these things, which I wouldn't necessarily mind, except now I can't use them as a carry-on, because as a carry-on, they'll let you have one personal bag and a carry-on, and I don't know if they would let me have two of these, counting one as each. And if they did, then I couldn't have a personal bag, which I kind of need a lot of times when I travel. Um, so I find that kind of a problem, just in the sense that it defeats the purpose. I mean, if I was mainly doing it to go to and from the game store, then I buy two of them and things lock in, and that's fine. But that's not why I need it for, because then I've got to unlock them and put them all in the movement trays, and it's all that hassle. I want these for when I travel, and so the size of it for me is a little bit prohibitive. I would have to, I think it'd be easy enough to change the size of it to fit more if you want to market it to a game like the Ninth Age, where there are just more models. Now, this isn't a huge critique of the system as much as it is um, lessons learned. So if you look on the left, when you slide it in, there's this piece that sticks out, and that's where the door actually is just a piece of metal or whatever that slides down into a groove here, in the front of it. Well, the groove thing sticks out and it catches your miniatures. So like I said, there was room. I could have pushed my guys closer to the center, and in hindsight, like next time I would. It's not a big deal. I mean, I had guys turn sideways because I put this guy facing forward, and for whatever reason he was hitting another model, so I said, screw it, just put him sideways. And I got to this point, and I'm like, well, crap, now he won't slide in because that groove that the door slides into, it slides from top to bottom, is blocking it. So not a huge deal, but you just need to know that. Another problem, the wing nuts have the same problem. Like here, I tightened it down, it was nice and tight, and then I realized that wing nut in the middle is sticking out to the left and won't get past the door thing. So again, not a huge deal, but now I've got to loosen it up or do something to get it straight forward. And this guy, every time I tightened that wing nut, it was hitting my model, scraping paint off of it, which is it's exactly the opposite of the purpose. Not a huge problem, again, as long as you plan ahead and push your stuff towards the middle, or just make sure that any model that's near a wing nut is either moved safely away from it or is not leaning forward or something like that. More problematically, and really this is the problem I have. I'm going to go forward one and then come back again. So this is the door, right? It just kind of slides down into this, which I've already said I don't love because these pieces that stick in are just make it a little bit of a problem with your models. Well, I don't know when this happened. I know that when they sent it to me, they followed up and said, yeah, I got it. I don't think it was damaged in transit. And then when I did this review, I'm like, oh, this happened. So this either happened in transit. I don't think it happened since I got it because I haven't really done anything with it. But it doesn't matter. I mean, I've had this thing for a week, and somehow, this part broke off. So the part where the door slides down is a little bit fragile. So I just don't like the door. I don't like that it just slides up. Like, it feels like it just slides up. It doesn't feel like it's securely closed. And I'm thinking, even if it was just a sliding door on a hinge or something, all those problems go away because you wouldn't need those parts. They wouldn't be bumping against your models when you're trying to insert the tray. You could actually put a little hinge on there, something like that. So I'll talk about that later. But I'm not really fond of the door. And I don't like that those things are relatively fragile. The cost of it is 115 euros plus shipping, and then if you're in the EU, plus the value-added tax. But the VAT is so much that the cost comes out to about 149 euros, regardless if you're in the EU or somewhere else, anywhere in the world, because anywhere else in the world you don't have the VAT, but your shipping is higher. Either way, as of this review, it comes out to about 160 US dollars. I'm trying to evaluate. I think whether that's expensive or not just depends on where you are in life. Because when I was playing this hobby at 30 years old or 28 years old with 3 small kids, I don't know. I mean, $160 in this hobby is relatively little. I don't know. To me, the price is about right. I don't mind the price. I don't mind the price at all, actually. I mind the price if I have to buy 2 of them, but it's a moot point because I don't want to buy 2 anyway because 2 doesn't solve my problem. So I said the criteria that I was looking at. So here my assessment according to those criteria. Is it a good carrying case for flying? I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, mainly because it's just too small for me. A 4,500 point tournament is the smallest tournament I'm going to go to, and it fits 3/4 of my army, maybe 2/3 of it. I don't really like the hard metal edges when I'm jostling in crowds. I'm worried they're going to snag on stuff. They're going to, there's just like really pointy, corners I don't love, and I don't trust that sliding door, and I don't like the fragile parts that comprise the door. I'm still giving it a 7 out of 10 because the concept works. The concept is really innovative, and I like it. I think those few things just need to be tweaked. It needs to protect the fragile parts of the miniatures. I'm getting a 9 out of 10. I like it. It secures it by the base. They're held in place. They're not jostling up against foam or anything else, rubbing off paint, snapping off, spear tips and stuff like that. I like it a lot. You do have to be careful when aligning your minis, because the case itself, as it's currently designed, or those wing nuts could damage them. And you have to make sure your minis are snug. Because when I put my minis in that first time, I didn't know what I was doing. I had to go back and I had to loosen the bars and change minis around. And then when I put the bars back in place, some of them weren't secure. And after I did all that, if I had turned the tray upside down that had my monster and my chariot would have fallen out. Because at that point I loosened it and I didn't tighten it snugly. So I don't consider that a huge concern, because that was a rookie mistake. If I did it even a second or third time, I would know how to do it to where that wouldn't happen. But you do have to make sure your minis are snug in there, or they're going to really get bounced around. And now they're bouncing around against metal, so it's something you have to be careful about. Is it customizable for a wide variety of builds? I give it a 10 out of 10. I think that's its strength. I love that about it. I don't have to buy and store tons of different kind of foam inserts. And does it fit my whole army? As I said before, no, it doesn't. So my recommendations for it, right now this thing is 9.5 by 9.5 by 9.5, and you can go up to 22.5 by 14 by 9. So there's a lot of room here for space. In two of those dimensions, you've got a lot of room for space. In one of those dimensions, you can double. And that would be huge. Double this bad boy. Double how wide it is. And I'm sold on it. I'm liking it a lot. I would say make the door secure, possibly with a small clasp for a lock, and remove the sliding door, which gets rid of that fragile part exterior, which I really don't like. And there may be other options there, but I really just don't like the door. And then I think if the company had an option for a carrying bag, so that you could travel holding what looks like any other carry-on bag, I think that'd be nice. It would provide a little bit of cushion for the metal. It would provide protection for other things from that metal, especially those hard corners. And then that bag could actually have little pockets for your movement trays and other things, so you could actually kind of get most or all of your game-related stuff in one place. So I think if those things were done, I think if there was a little more accommodation for the necessary size for the 9th age in games like this, I like the solution a lot. Matter of fact, this would be my go-to solution. This is what I will do if they can fix that, if they can come out with a new model that's bigger. And again, I know the carrying bag is something separate. It would be more cost. For me, I don't know. I'd probably buy the case first, the larger case first, and try it. But I think eventually I would buy a carrying bag if there was one available. So anyway, that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. My recommendation on Phobos Foundry's ShapeShift.